Thank you very much for joining us for this particular session. My name is Nguwi. I'm the Managing Consultant of Industrial Psychology Consultants, and I'll be taking you through this session where we are going to be talking about preparing a good CV and also a few tips on how you can pass your job interview. So after my presentation, we'll just go through some questions if people have got questions. These questions can be put in the chat, or you can unmute yourself at the right time and present your questions. I'll be able to answer any questions that you may have. We're going to have more frequent of these sessions because I do get a lot of questions around issues to do with preparing a good CV and also how to pass an interview. While if you are waiting to start in about a few seconds, you can also follow the discussions. We do have a lot of discussions around the same issues on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on Facebook. You can follow us as given below there. If you are looking for me, you can just look for Nguwi. You will find that on Twitter, on LinkedIn, and Facebook. That is exactly the same. IPC Consultants, if you just do that, you also find it there. More discussions are actually happening on the Human Capital Hub. If you follow that handle, you'll be able to join the discussion and many others that we have. So, yeah. So let's go through a bit of background on myself. I am a registered occupational psychologist, and I've been in consulting for a very long time. This is my 17th year, but in total, I've been in human resources and consulting for a total of 22 years. So I've had an opportunity to design questions in interviews. Probably some of you, I've interviewed you, or I was part of a panel. I've also had an opportunity to interview people from all levels, mostly executives and the CEOs. I've had that opportunity to do that. So let's look at the global outlook in terms of normally what happens in terms of the job market. And once we do that, it should be very easy for all of us to see what actually is happening. So if you look at the job market, you will find that 8.8% of the total working hours were estimated to have been lost, largely because of COVID, and 50% of this due to various measures taken to contain costs as a result of the pandemic. Then 50% due to employment losses as a result of the things that organizations were trying to do in order to control costs. So all these are issues that do impact on the labor market. If you look at our situation, obviously the high inflation, the depreciation of the local currency, it does have an impact on whether organization will hire or not. But I can assure you that despite all these challenges, organizations are hiring day in, day out for various reasons. There are some that are opening new projects. There are some that are replacing people who have left. They also tend to be high mobility for those with high skills in a situation like ours. Or also what we are seeing is that because largely our estimate from our survey is that 80% of companies are paying some form of remuneration in US dollar of some sort, not necessarily 100%, but a portion of whatever they're paying their employees in US dollars. There is seems to be a trend where people are tracking the US dollar, basically looking for employers that are paying that US dollar component. You are lucky if you're in an export-oriented kind of business where most of the payments are in US dollars. That's mining, tobacco, and many others. You'll be lucky. So there is supply and demand factors are actually at play in relation to employment. So as you're looking for a job, you may also want to look at some of the statistics that is available. You would be aware that on average, each corporate job offer attracts roughly about 250 resumes. We do find much higher figures in Zimbabwe for certain roles, especially those in accounting. So of those candidates, 4 to 6 will get shortlisted, basically get into the interview level. This is according to Glassdoor. Then the recruiters take, I want you to look at this. They take an average of 6 seconds to scan a CV, average of 6 seconds. So that tells you a story about what kind of CV you must have. So if they take 6 seconds, it means they're not going to read the second page, they're not going to read the third page, they're not going to read fourth page, they're not going to read 50 page of your CV. Basically what it means there is that whatever you need to put in your CV that is important must be on page 1, on the first page. Don't waste time putting that cover page with all those nice pictures, it's irrelevant. No one looks at those. So that 6 seconds, you must keep it at the back of your mind as we go through this session. The 91% of employers prefer their country to have work experience, and 65% of them prefer their country to have relevant work experience. So what it basically means is that if you haven't worked, chances are really stacked against you, but depending on where you are in terms of your career or progression. But more importantly, what is important is that if you look at that, if you're an entry-level kind of job, we'll talk about that. If you're experienced, we'll also talk about that. Up to 85% of jobs are filled via networking, basically LinkedIn and others. Most of the time, we did the survey even locally. We found that most people did get their job, not through advertised jobs, but through a referral from someone that they know. So that's key for you to take note, okay? Then it takes about 100 to 200 job applications to get one job offer. For some, it's much less. This is an average. So if you're going to be looking for a job, especially in a very tight market like ours, it may make sense to apply to as many jobs as you can, as long as you think you partly fulfill the requirements of that particular job. It will be important to do that. Then 76% of CVs are ignored if you have an unprofessional email address. Nearly half of the CVs that are more than 2 pages long are also disregarded. So this is also key. Let me look at it again. 76% of the CVs are ignored if you have an unprofessional CV. Some of the CVs, the emails that we see, people sending their CVs through, for example, BokoHaram.com, SexBeast.com, all those kind of emails are unprofessional emails. And once you send your CV, I do know when I was talking to some group, most of these CVs, these emails are created when people don't want to be known, especially when you're still in college. That's what we do. But I would urge you to really have a professional CV, either using your name, a combination of a name and surname, or vice versa. That will be key. Then remember, a longer CV will be discarded because people don't have time. That's why I was emphasizing that you must, at least you have most of the stuff that you require on the first page of your CV. And the other good thing is, the other important aspect to take note is that you must create a new CV for every job opportunity because the requirements are different. So if you're going to send generic CVs, you will have a challenge. Let me stop here. Lionel, you raised your hand. Can you unmute yourself and speak? What is it? Are you having any challenges? Okay, let me proceed. He's not speaking there. So the issue of you sending a generic CV to every job will work against you. If you've got the time, please create a CV for each job. What it basically means is that you customize your CV in line with what is required for each particular job, specifically looking at the duties. Most of the job adverts, if they are put on the, if they're done right, they will be able to highlight what is required of each particular employee and what are the key issues that are required for that particular job. It's actually very important for you to look at that. And when you're doing your CV, it's always important to start with a short summary. You know, you put all your personal details, which we'll talk about, but there is one part that actually can get you a job very easily, which is a summary of your experience. It's a summary of your experience. Let the numbers do the talking. Let's look at this extract from the Harvard Business Review. This is someone writing their summary of experience. Says, my past role, I led a team to increase revenue by 20%. In my past role, I increased the annual revenue from 5 million to 6 million, a gain of 20%, while leading a global team of 6 employees spread across 4 time zones. Who would not want to hire such kind of a person? Who would not want to hire such kind of a person? But what we see on the ground is that people talk, I'm a team player, I'm a good communicator, things that are very hard to prove. But these ones, we can actually go back and do reference checks and see if the person has delivered. And it's very attractive. People want numbers, especially when they want to make such an important decision as hiring. So that's key for you to do that. So I hope you will be able to adjust your CV to make sure that there is a summary of experience full of facts about what you have achieved. That's what recruiters are looking for. So if I'm hiring a sales manager, a marketing manager, and they've got these 2 sentences at the beginning of their CV, I won't even go to the other pages. The next thing that I look for is, are they qualified or not? And if they are not qualified, what are the issues? I look at that. So this is key. If you can meet yourself, I think Lionel, you are unmuted, and Bangure, you're also unmuted. Yes, if you can meet yourself, please, so that we can continue with less disturbances. Okay, so if you look at that, you will see that that's how basically the CV. For me, that's the key aspect of any CV. Make sure there is a summary of experience. Let's look at this one. I'm sure you've seen this CV or online. It went viral some time back. Just look at the first part where I'll just look at the first part where she says president and CEO. It says led the 5 million acquisition of the company from Verizon, the entity which believed most in the immense value of Yahoo is created, acquired Tumblr for 1.1 billion and moved the company's blog there, built Yahoo's mobile video and social business from nothing in 2011 to 1.6 billion GAAP revenue in 2015, tripled the company's mobile base to over 600 million monthly active users and generated over 1 billion mobile service advertising revenue last year. Who would not want to hire such kind of a person? You do that for your summary of experience, even as you go into the different aspects of your CV, where you are actually putting your experience, the different companies that you have worked with. Please don't do a responsibility CV. You must do a results-based CV. A responsibility CV is basically a copying what is in the job description. And you can't separate, if someone prepares their CV in this way, and you prepare yourself, your CV as a responsibility CV, I would hire the person who has presented a results-based CV rather than a responsibility CV. That's clear, and it's very easy for you. What I can guarantee you is that if you prepare your CV in this way, you are very likely to be called for an interview. Remember, preparing a good CV does not necessarily mean you've gotten the job, but it's a passport. You can't go into Mozambique, you can't go into Botswana without a valid passport. A good CV is a valid passport. If you don't have a valid passport, a very good CV, you'll be rejected. And there are so many people who would want the same job. Look at the average. If you get 500 applications for a role and only one person must be hired, that on its own tells you a story. And that story is that you will not be hired if your CV is not looking good in terms of how you've prepared. That's the summary. Then I'll go into some of the details that you may want to look at. So as you're preparing to look for a job, it's important for you to make sure that you look at what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, and how can you put them onto your CV in terms of facts and figures, not necessarily speculative. Focus on the search, that's key. And I know some of the people, when they're looking for a CV, I would say, depending on where you're coming from and where you are in terms of your career, there are certain times when you are looking for a job where you really don't care about the benefits, whatever they're offering, you're worried about getting into the job market, then you maneuver out of there. So the strategies would be different for different people. If you're a senior, very experienced person, and you've got a very good track record, your bargaining power tends to go up as well. If you're on the lower side, the junior side, more competition as well as you go down, your bargaining power tends to be less, unless you are really a sought-after skill. So all those things must be taken into consideration as you're doing your job search. It's crucial for you to be able to do that. Networking, I've already highlighted the importance of networking. Networking is not corruption. You just need to know where are the people. It could be online. Who are you following online, and things like that. Do they share opportunities? They could be business. These opportunities could be job related. There are so many people who are actually sharing these opportunities on a daily basis, and other people get employed. We place people monthly, 10, 15, monthly, 10, 15, 20. Every month, simply because these people are connected to where the jobs are being shared. These people are connected to where the job. If you are on the job, if you're hunting for a job and you're not receiving jobs on email, you're losing. If you're hunting for jobs, you're not receiving jobs on your social media, you're losing. If you're hunting for jobs and you're not receiving these jobs on WhatsApp, you're losing. Okay, so there are plenty of opportunities that are actually available to all of us. Then as you are preparing your CV, in the background, you must have your references ready, who is going to be your referees. But what I want to advise you is, depending on where you are in the career ladder as well, you may want to be able to say, if you are very senior and you are looking, and your skills are well sought after, instead of putting the referees, you can actually just say references are available on request. It will be viewed as rude if you are in a market where there are plenty of people, they'll throw away your CV. But if you are really in demand, you still put that as a requirement. Just say reference available on request. The advantage is that you'll be able to tailor make your references based on the company that want to hire you. Because if you're going to mining, you may need a different person to give you a reference. If you're going into banking, you may need a different person to give you a reference. So these are issues that you need to really reflect on, look at. If you've got a toolkit of your CVs, depending on how you've created them, this will be very easy issue as well. Your online presence, I am assuming everyone is on social media, but more importantly, if you're on social media and you are both looking for a job, but also dabbling in other things that employers frown upon, you can be very unlucky, simply because employers are now looking at your social media footprint as they're doing their background checks. I do know, for example, in one stage we're doing an interviews for an international company, and at the end of the interview, 2 people, and all of them were asked to just showcase their social media profiles on Twitter, and then Facebook, and some of them were trembling, basically unable to open them because of what was there. So be careful what you do and things like that. I've already talked about job search. Please don't stop applying. Modify your CV for each job, and also don't get discouraged. I do know that when you are not employed, it could create problems as well, including, for example, dealing with gaps that you may find in your CVs. The best way to deal with gaps that you find in your CV, maybe you were retrenched, you were fired. The best way is to put that currently working for a family business. You put your duties, what you're doing there, what you've managed to achieve. Put a typical title. If you're an accountant and you've got a family business, a butchery or a shop, a general dealer, you put it there. You're actually occupied. Employers tend to frown upon people who have got those gaps. They always doubt whether it was a genuine gap or not. Even if you say I was retrenched and you stay for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, people doubt then your capacity to be employed. And these are all prejudices that you find on the open job market that you can't ignore, because you have no control of how those people are going to think about you. Okay, so a typical CV, I'll go through it quickly, what should be there and what should not be there. And here's the key issue. The CV must invoke a desire for the employer to call you for the interview. That's the only purpose of the CV, the desire to evoke an employer to call you for an interview. Let me give you, for example, when I finished the university and joined the job market, all the applications that I send out, I got called for an interview. You could call it lucky, but I also learned how to design my CV very early. Probably one of my best. I had to use my own CV to share with my colleagues because it was one of the best. I was advised by one of the best people in the profession at that time, who was also a psychologist, but very seasoned. We actually sat down that time, typing. My computers were not as available as they are now, but we sat down, we looked at my CV, we created a killer of a CV, and all the jobs, the applications that I sent out, I was called for an interview, and that there is a record to prove that. So it's important to make sure that your CV is looking perfect. And we talked about matching to the employer. The good thing about the CV is that you're in charge. When you go to the interview, you are partly in charge. When you prepare your CV, you are actually in charge. You must work on it. And once you do it once and it's a good CV, the customization becomes easy. But most of the time, the CVs, the font is mixed up with 5 types of fonts. Font size is different, 5 different types of font sizes. Sometimes the whole page is all in caps. No one reads that. We basically throw it away, including myself, basically throw it away. No one has got time. The 6 seconds must be utilized properly. Then obviously, these are the details that you normally find on a CV. We'll look at those as we go just now. Okay, so on the personal details, these are some of the details that you find on a CV. Traditionally in Zimbabwe, yes, all these you find there. But the most important part of your CV in terms of personal details is your name, and your contact details. There is no need for you to put your address if you are, especially locally. Yes, I do know that others, they do insist outside the country, but there's no need. You could actually attract people to come to your house for other means rather than what you actually intend. So a telephone number, a cell number, and email are good enough. Then driver's license, date of birth, questionable. It's not important, but I do know that employers in Zimbabwe do love it. ID number, what purpose? How would that help you get a job? Nationality, if you're applying locally, yes, to some extent, yes, but not important. Marital status, irrelevant basically to whether you're going to do the job or not. A photograph, I would say a no, unless specifically requested. There are so many people who are biased based on the photograph that you send. And some of the photographs that I've been looking at in the morning, you would think the person is on a police wanted list simply because of the photograph that they have put. And that can put off the person who is hiring, who is shortlisting. Religion again, are you a Christian? Some people put I'm Seventh-day Adventist. Is it necessary? No. Work permit, sometimes no. Number of children, actually no. So there are many others that you can look at. So I would not put that. So I would put my name, contact details, which is email and the cell phone. Then immediately after that, I put my qualifications. What qualifications? And when you're putting your qualifications, don't you just put BSc honors economics degree. Okay, if you want, you can put 2-1, but it depends on where you are. If you're entry level graduate, yes, you can put 2-1 and or degree class. But if you have already been in the market, it's not necessary to put that. Then you put, if you've got a master's degree and things like that, you start with your master's or PhD, going downwards. There is no need to put A-level, 5-8 A-levels and things like that. If you're already employed and you've got the experience, no one will look at that. No one is going to hire a CEO or an executive and start looking at how many A-levels they had and how many points they had. Employers rarely look at those. The reason why your qualification must come immediately after that. So I'll put my qualification in the experience immediately after my personal details. Because normally, before I look at anything else, I want to see whether you meet the minimum qualifications required. Because most employers are very strict on it. So I want to know if you meet, the reason why I was saying you must customize is because you can be able to say, okay, they require an MBA. You put your MBA, okay? They require a master's degree in strategic management. You put your master's degree there because they require you do it exactly as the requirement of that particular job. I do know that some employers do mislead you by saying that this is an added advantage. Rarely so, if you look at it on the ground. Some say having a master's degree and an added advantage. Because what it basically means is that if you meet the minimum requirements, we shortlist you. If you've got an MBA, if you've got 100 people with MBA, what do we do? Most of the time, we stick to the minimum requirement, then we go to the experience, relevant experience. Do you have the relevant experience? And what is the relevant experience differs by the job advert that you're looking at. So it differs. Okay, so the trick here is you must have a generic CV that you can send unsolicited if you want to. Then you must have tailor-made, customized CVs responding to specific job adverts. That's how you do that. So immediately after the education and qualification and experience, I would put the issues to do with a summary of key experience. That is a killer for me. Summary of key experience. That's key. The summary of key experience. Remember how I showed you, and on that the sample CV that we showed you. That's how you put your summary of key experiences. In that, you put that. That is a winning formula for anyone looking for a job. I know it will be taking a bit of time to be able to master how to do that, but it can be done. That's key. We have already talked about the qualifications and things like that, but I will not go into detail. The experience, again on the experience, you are listing starting with your current employment going backwards, basically. So if you are currently employed by My Oranges or Oranges Private Limited, that's where you start. You're finance manager, 2020 to present, My Oranges Private Limited. That's how we do it, okay? And then immediately after that, don't put duties, put results. What have you achieved in that particular area? Okay, and it must whatever you're going to put there must speak to what is on the job advert. Okay, if they are looking for someone who's going to do management accounting, you must put your result-based summary, 2, 3, 4 page sentences of a summary related to things that are on the on the job advert. That's basically how you do it. Okay. Then interests and achievements rarely looked at unless you're an entry-level kind of job. And for some senior roles, for example, if you're in marketing, that can play a role. But I would not really worry about that at all when it comes to issues to do with interests and achievements. Achievements, yes, achievements. These normally people do the achievement that they've achieved, things that they've achieved while they're in school and things like that. But for experienced people, this already covered under summary of key experience summary. That is already covered there. So you may not need to be able to do that. References, I've talked about that. What else? The last part there is basically your cover letter. Rare, unless you're applying for international organizations, some still require a cover letter. The cover letter, basically, you're trying to answer why do you think you're the best candidate for this job? You're given an opportunity in writing, basically. Okay, that's basically what you're putting. There are various types of cover letters that you can use, but you are basically answering that. So I will not go into much detail about that because of time as well. Let's look at the last part of this presentation, which is basically the interview. When you get called for an interview, most of the time on average, companies interview 5 people, depending on level. As you go up, it could just be 3 or 2. Okay? As you go down, it could be more. There is no standard, but the average that we normally see is 4 to 7 candidates sometimes. That's the range that you find. And when you get invited to an interview, the key issue is you have been given an opportunity to showcase what you know, basically through oral interview. This can be done through, obviously, online interview or whatever, but this is your opportunity to do well in the job interview. Okay, so when you're in the job interview, let's just look at some of the stats here. 47% of interviewers said they wouldn't offer a job to a candidate if they had little knowledge about the company. What does that tell you? You must research about the company, know the company inside out. The good thing is there is public information about almost every company now because of the internet, thanks to the internet. So go there. While you have looked at the information that I'm talking about, look at the information. It's available in the public domain. You can get all this information about the company because they may ask you about what do you know about this company? Maybe this is an opening statement question. You start explaining, so you're doing this and this and this. And ordinarily, we would expect you to talk about the positive things. Remember, you will be at a very critical time. Then a survey of 2,000 hiring managers found that 33% knew whether they would hire someone in the first 90 seconds or not. Why is that the case? Obviously, erroneously or rightly so or wrong, the issue is that they will have looked at how you are presenting yourself. It's just the general outlook. Are you dressed properly? When you converse with the panel, are you showing confidence and things like that? Most of the time, if you go back to the interview, is not the best way to select people, yes, but there are a lot of biases that you find in an interview. For example, a handshake can lose your job. Okay, dressing you can lose a job. A job that you are very capable of doing. The way you speak can actually the confidence, lack of confidence. Those are issues. Then 50% of the interviewers think that a candidate can be eliminated for the position due to the way they are dressed, acted, or walked through the door. Walk with energy when you go into the interview. Walk with energy. Some people you would think they are really going to slaughter because the way they walk, they have no energy. And I've heard several times people commenting when the candidate has left to say, this person, I don't think they can handle. This is a high pressure job. They have no energy. Imagine you lose a job simply because you've walked into a job interview panel or a job interview room basically showing that you are already tired. And these people are just pushing you, are already tired. That will work against you. 40% of the interviewers stating that the quality of candidate's voice and their overall confidence was the reason for not taking the candidate any further. Confidence, your voice. Some people just add, even if they know nothing, they're very confident. But don't be overconfident because it can appear as being arrogant as well. Confidence just meaning that you're answering the questions with a lot of confidence. 70% to 80% of the interview questions are competence-based and skills-based. So when you get into the interview, the way you walk into the interview, the way you talk to the panelists, the way you sit in the interview, all that is key in terms of creating an impression around you as a potential candidate for whatever role that we have, that we are applying for in that particular organization. And one of the most important questions is, tell us about yourself, please. Once that question has been asked, please don't go to town talking about, I went to Chairman's primary school, I've got 5 kids, my father is late, and whatever. All those things are not necessary. That question put differently is just saying, why should we hire you? And you go into your historical experience to say, I worked for such a company, I did this, and achieved this. I went to school. But most of the information they already have. I know the first thing that people boast about is, I've got a master's degree, I've got an MBA from Harvard, I've got this, I've got 2 master's degrees, and all that. Yes, depending on how you put it, it's information that is already known. Okay, so it may not be necessary to go to town about it. What matters is what you say in terms of what you're going to bring to the organization. As a sales manager for this particular role, grew sales for the past every year by an average in real terms about 30% every year on year, for the past in the role that I'm currently in, and I think I can bring the same kind of market insights and strategies to help your organization. When I look at your current market positioning, you are actually number 10. I think I can move you to number 5 because of my experience dealing with this. I did that in this particular organization, did that in this particular organization. That's basically what people are looking for. And as you're answering the questions in the interview, always stick to that. And I'll show you the model that you can use to answer some of those questions. And as you are going through the interview, please be straight to the point. Don't waste time. Don't be elaborate. There is one thing that interviewers hate: people who speak too much, who end up confusing themselves. And they end up saying, do you understand me? We don't understand you. You just must say it as it is, clearly and concise and straight to the point. That's basically what interviewers are looking for. And don't interpret the interviewer as they're speaking. Don't use jargon and things like that. Don't be pompous in the interview. Remember, you're talking to people who have got the power to give you the job or not. Be humble as you're in the interview. Stick to the question. Remain professional. If there's something to laugh, if they say something that is worth laughing, please do so as a professional, not to laugh for the next 5 minutes and wait people waiting for you to stop. All those things are not good. We talked about posture already. This is the way to answer interview. This is the killer, basically the killer model for answering interview. If you get asked the question, you must always give the situation. I would say it's called the STAR model. So the situation and task are almost the same. What was the situation or a task? What action did you take? And what were the results? Never answer an interview without giving the results. Okay? Never answer an interview without, always give an example of where you have handled the similar situation and you have won. That's basically how and that's basically the STAR model. Where you've handled the situation and they've won. So that's why it's situation, action, and the results, the STAR model. That's the outline. Okay, people, if you don't use the STAR model, most of the time your answers will really look speculative, and then the people look with no substance. But again, all this depends on how you've prepared. Okay, preparation involves a lot of things. I know sometimes you get called for an interview tomorrow, but still research about the company, dress well. Prepare. If you've got a colleague, get some questions that they could ask you about the job, get composure, get to the interview venue very early if you can, maybe at least 15 minutes ahead of time, so that you can relax. When you get there, switch off your phone. Most of the time, and I don't know how it happens. When the moment you get into the interview, after you have done your first question, the second question, the phone rings and the candidate struggles to switch off the phone. And that can be a negative for you. Not necessarily that all interviewers will do that, but again, it just shows that you are probably a bit disorganized. So that's how you do the interview, you go through the interview, and if you follow the issues that I have talked about, you will win. The preparation, as I indicated, include, even if you're using technology, make sure you're in an area where there's proper network, power issues have been sorted, dressed properly, and less distractions for that. And the dressing, general grooming guidelines, very clean. Check, ask your colleagues, am I well dressed? Would you give me a job if I were dressed like this going for the interview? Don't do an overkill of the dressing. And they always say at the end, if you are primarily remembered for your interview attire, this is probably because you made an error in judgment. That's normally what happens. Okay, thank you very much. So I'll take questions. I was trying to compress everything in one short presentation. If you have got a question, you can put the question in the chat, and I'll answer the questions, or you can unmute yourself, and I will then you can then give us your question, and I'll answer that question. And please don't forget to follow me or follow IPC Consultants, and also the Human Capital Hub, which is a subdivision of IPC Consultants. But if you've got any questions, please shoot. We will be able to answer those questions.
Hi, Memory.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Mine is not a question per se. I just wanted to ask for a favor. Is it possible for you to share the slides that you've been sharing?
Yes, we're actually recording it. So Nicholas will share the recording. If you follow us on any of those handles, you'll see when we share it, it will probably be shared tomorrow before 10. We just need to make sure that we edit the beginning where there was nothing happening there, and any background noise.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other question? Okay. Since there are no questions. Yes, get on, Ebert.
Okay, with the standard of delivery that you have just given us, I'm very impressed that Zimbabwe has such human capital. And as part of those who are involved in skills development, I'm very impressed to see that we have grown this far. Unfortunately, some of the people who need this are actually out of these platforms. And it was just 5 minutes when I saw the link and I had to jump in. I left what I was doing and I had to follow this proceeding. I'm very much impressed, and I think skills development in the country, in Zimbabwe in particular, needs to be expanded so that this goes to all peoples at all levels, from the masters, as you mentioned, the matriculants, or grade A levels and all that, until we all know what exactly needs to be done. This is very impressive. It's not a question, but it's a comment on the work that you have done, brother.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Chantel, if you can, your hand is up, you can proceed.
I would like to ask, is it okay when interviewers tell you that they will call everyone after an interview to tell you whether you have passed or you have not, and they don't call? How do you react when that type of situation happens?
Yeah, normally what is currently happening is that unprofessional, it's very unprofessional. It used to happen long back, and also remember, is currently basically the employer's market as well. So employers, most of the time, they don't even come back to you. They don't reply to you, to your emails and things like that. It's a bad practice. But most of the time, we'll see if you don't hear from us, you assume that you have not been successful. That's the unwritten philosophy. Bad as it may look, I think if you start from that point of view, you will not get disappointed. And don't worry if they don't call you, because if they really wanted you, they will call you. But I am not supporting them, but I'm just saying this is the practice. This is something that we've discussed even in other HR forums. I've got a forum with more than 500 HR managers where we've talked about the same issues and things like that. So it's unprofessional, but it's the reality on the ground, especially in our Zimbabwean market. Thank you. Then Memory Makumire, yes, you've got a question. Please unmute yourself and speak.
All right, thank you very much. I wanted to ask how properly to respond to the question which says, why do you want to leave your current job, without actually portraying as if you are someone who is very mobile.
Okay, so if you have done your research a bit, you do, let's say I'm moving from a role where I'm an accountant. I've been running probably a very small department when there were 10 of us or 5 of us, sharing that information, sharing that portfolio. And you've got an opportunity where you're going to be the company accountant on your own. You portray growth. Basically, when I looked at the role and the structure that we have, I think this is my best opportunity to grow and showcase what I have learned so far, where I am, and I will cherish an opportunity to really come and join you. Something like that. It must always be related to what you know about the company, what you know about the job, rather than speculative of just saying it's career growth, which is basically the standard answer that most people give. Always customize it to the situation. And when you go for an interview, go with an answer for that question because they will ask you most of the time. Go with an answer for that question. The second question is, how much do you expect? Or what are your salary expectations? Most of the time, my advice is give a range. Don't be specific on any particular figure. And when you give that range, say, look, my understanding is that the market is paying for this role roughly between 800 and 1.5. And currently I'm on 900. And I would be happy to get a slight increase on my salary because my main reason for moving is basically the scope of the job that I've seen that you're offering. That's how you answer the question. If they try to pin you down, to give a specific figure, shoot, just give it. They don't worry. As long as you're within range, it doesn't matter. If those people want you, even if you give an exorbitant figure, they will negotiate with you. If they don't want you, they say good riddance, basically, but don't worry about that. When people want you, they will look for you. Okay, let's go to Tasiana. You can unmute yourself and speak.
Yes, okay, thank you so much, Memory. And I just want to start by appreciating like someone did. This was an eye opener. Thank you so much. Right, my first question is how long should the cover page, the cover letter be? Number 2, I want to also see guidance on how to tackle questions that you don't know yet. Or for example, you're asking the technical question, but you know nothing about that question. Is it good to make an attempt, maybe, and also acknowledge that you don't know the question and maybe give your own version of a certain maybe technical concept? Or should I should I straight away tell them that I know nothing about that question? Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. I'll start with the last question. So you get asked the question, because there are different types of questions. There are questions that require your opinion. There are questions that require facts. If a question requires your opinion, even if you don't know, you can try. And there's normally no penalty. Say, in my opinion, and you indicate upfront that this is not factual. It's my own opinion. So that's a way you start. Then if it's a factual question, it's like saying, what is the capital city of Botswana? And you don't know, it will really be damaging for you to give the wrong answer. It's actually better to say, this one, I'm not sure, let it pass. But the danger is, let it not be more questions of let it pass. But if where there is really an issue of you giving an opinion, I would say just attempt and say, yeah, this is an area that I'm not really well versed in, but I'll try. I'll give my best attempt based on the knowledge that I have on the area. They must know. There is no. If people want you, they want you. It also shows honesty on your side. I've been sitting in some interviews as a panelist where people give an answer that destroys basically an hour's worth of work that they will have put in, and say people, no, this person can't take this role. With this kind of answer, they're really off the mark. And so my advice is opinion-based questions. Give your opinion freely and with all the energy. If it's a factual question and you have no idea, you can say, let this one pass, and it's perfectly fine. The cover letter, like I was saying, the cover letters are becoming fewer and fewer. It's actually dying down. That's why I was restricting them to some of the international organizations, which I feel probably not necessary given where we are going with the automation and the artificial intelligence, things like that. But I would not do more than a page. But some of them will tell you 2 pages. Some of them will say 3 pages. So you just look at that. If it's not stated no more than a page, remember again, most people don't read it. The people who are actually the hiring managers who read that. It may be a requirement in their policy, but they never look at it. It's just like references. When I'm shortlisting someone from the CV, I don't look at reference at all. I look at first page, If you're lucky, I look at the second page. That's it. All the other pages, I don't look at that because I have no time. I have to shortlist people out of 500, so I have no time to look at page 3, page 2, page 4, page 5. That's normally what I would recommend. Thank you. Okay, if there are any other question, maybe give 1 more minute before we end the discussion. Yes, Makoni, you can proceed.
All right, thank you, Memory. I think you can also just check on the chat. I can see there are some questions there.
Okay, so yeah, sorry. Thank you for reminding me. I had not looked at that. Okay, so let me start the way. Thank you very much. That what happened to me once visited come and the light in my face. Okay, yeah, those things do happen. What if you do not have quantifiable achievement to show on your CV, like you have very little no experience? Yeah, if you're an entry-level kind of job and have very little experience, normally you showcase your academic achievements. What I did when I was coming out of university is that I indicated, for example, we as part of the Zimbabwe Psychological Association for the student chapter, we were going for sponsored walks, raising money. I was part of some of the committees raising money. I put all that into my achievements, and probably it played a big part, and that's what I would do. But don't force yourself if there's nothing. Just showcase your academic achievements and everything like that. And if you're a graduate and you've never worked before, the best thing to do is just put your degree in the degree class. Don't list the subjects, please. No one looks at that unless they request specifically for that, because you're just wasting space on your CV and probably confusing the recruiter. Just say if it's BSc Economics, you just put that rather than saying Economics 2-1 and this one 2-1 and things like that. That is not necessary. So you can still put a good CV without all this experience that we were talking about. Okay, then the other question, very different note. I wanted to know if somebody said do not disenfranchise potentially capable employees. Not necessarily. If you go back to psychometric testing, for example, they really measure cognitive ability. That's the key. And cognitive ability is one of the biggest predictors of performance, followed by job knowledge, followed by integrity. So it's not just, remember, when employers use psychometric testing, they're basically refining and narrowing down on the candidates. These candidates will have been coming through the shortlisting process. So I don't think they would. They're just trying to get the best candidate out of that. So what other people do? You shortlisted, go for psychometric tests, go for interviews, then others actually go for assessment center after that. Or psychometric tests, they do assessment center, then they do the interview last. You normally rank the process based on the predictive validity of each method. The interview is the worst predictor of performance, and they tend to go last. If you start with the interview, and it's not a structured interview, I'm talking here about a structured interview. Most of the interviews that people go to are actually unstructured interviews. So people randomly ask you questions, there's no standard, and they ask different people different questions. Those are called unstructured interviews. They're very unreliable. So I would say there is no, psychometric tests don't really disenfranchise anyone. How do you respond to this question? Why do you want to leave? I think we answered that. Does your company oversee this? No, we don't. If the interview says the results will be out, I think I answered. Thank you very much. What happens? What if you don't have quantifiable? We answered that. You mentioned something about entry-level opportunity, but I didn't get to hear in your presentation. Maybe graduate learnership programs. What is the key to those roles? Yeah, with the graduate learnership program, the key is because when you are shortlisting for graduate learnership program, which we do, we have handled companies that require 50 graduate trainees. Normally, the first thing that I look at is your degree and degree class. Unfortunately, in the research that we did last year, we did find that there was no correlation between degree class and performance, which means the employers are just using it as a way to reduce the number of candidates. But the number of candidates, but it doesn't really add much value to differentiate people based on degree class. Okay. Then this many of people need this guidance, including the most skilled we have in the country industry rebooting indeed. Thank you. Yeah, I think we're done. In the interest of time, I think let's continue the conversation. Please follow me, follow the Human Capital Hub, follow IPC. We'll continue the conversation. When we have a next session, we'll also let you know so that we can continue the conversation and help each other. This is basically part of our social responsibility to help each other so that as you go to interviews, at least you get some form of understanding of what the employers are looking for. Okay, there are 2 more questions. Yes, let me take those before we close. Faithful, you can unmute yourself and proceed.
Thank you, Memory. Thank you for the wonderful presentation. Unfortunately, I got in whilst you had already started. I'm not so sure whether my question had been asked. It's to do with cover letters. Are those, do they add any value at all? Or are they necessary for the recruitment process? Because I see that mostly they are standard and they really don't differ from one job to the next. Should employers or should should we be forced to do these cover letters at all?
Yeah, we discussed that. The cover letter is basically, for me, and what I'm seeing in terms of trends, is a useless process. Not much value because no one looks at them. Most of the employers that require a cover letter, it's part of their policy that they must have a cover letter. But there are unique positions where a cover letter they require it. For what reason? Really don't know. Sometimes just an introduction of why should we hire you and who are you and things like that. You're just basically putting that. But I wouldn't really worry about the cover letter at this stage unless you're going to apply for those. That's some international organizations that are very strict on the issue of cover letters. But locally, if you private sector, there is no cover letter to talk about in this country. When you look at it, very rarely. Okay. Then Mupita, if you can unmute yourself and speak.
Yeah, this information is very important, Mr. Memory. And I saw, I was just searching on internet. If you have a YouTube account, if you don't have, I think you can just upload this video on your YouTube account. It can be helpful to anyone who might want to view everything. If they have missed this information, I think it will be helpful.
Yes, we do have a YouTube account. If you go under IPC Consultant or the Human Capital Hub, you actually find us there. This particular video will be posted there. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Tatiana, if you can unmute yourself and speak, you'll be the last one because we're running short of time.
All right, thank you so much, Memory. I have one more trivial question, seemingly trivial question. What's your comment on trying out my luck? Because, you know, from time to time, we get encouragement from friends. For example, a job advert is specific maybe on certain areas, like say experience. Someone with maybe 5 years experience is needed, and I only have 2 years experience. What's your, comment on that one? Can I bother myself applying?
Yeah, it's one of the best strategies. Let me tell you what we do. Let's say I've been engaged by a client to shortlist people, and we have advertised in the newspaper, and they say they want a first degree in whatever, 5 years, 10 years experience. What we do is we also give them what is called a potential list of people who do not exactly meet what they require, but they've got the right qualification, the right experience to some extent. We actually do that, and there are people who have been hired because of that. So don't only apply for jobs where you meet 100%. You'll be losing opportunities. If you can apply, even if you have got, if they say 5 years, you've got 2 years experience, apply. If they say 10 years, you've got 7 years, apply. You'll be surprised by what you can get. Most likely, if you are good and your CV is good and you've done it well, they'll call you for an interview. Okay, thank you very much. I think in the interest of time, because of other commitments, I would like to thank you again. Please follow me on the social media platforms, and also let's follow Human Capital Hub and the IPC Consultants. We'll be sharing more there. And if you are on those platforms, you can also get to into other areas that we will be offering in terms of. I'll do more of these sessions on many other areas that may be of interest to you. So if you follow us, you'll probably get a chance to have a similar session like this. Enjoy the rest of your day. Good evening. Thank you.